the way that I define disruption is an innovation that transforms an existing market or creates a new one by making the complicated simple and or the expensive affordable. And that is the democratizing aspect of disruptive innovation that Clay identified in his research, and also hints to some of the dilemmas of it because it's going in and competing in a very different way, often in very new spaces that in the early stages make little sense to the market leading incumbent, which is why, of course, there are the famous dilemmas of disruption.
I will say that that word has been taken on a life of its own and a meaning very, very far beyond what Clay initially had in mind. I think the expression that has just been used about it often being about democratizing innovation and things that are actually sort of come in at the low end but provide all sorts of new sorts of values to very different kinds of individuals is actually a very powerful idea. For me, disruption has often been something where I tell my students, you often don't know it's disruptive until afterwards. And so something that you can mostly define in retrospect is a very difficult thing to use as a forward-leaning managerial tool. And so for me, thinking about how risky and on what dimensions that risk exists, which is how we start to think about incremental, adjacent, and sort of breakthrough is very powerful, recognizing that we always need to ask ourselves, is this going to disrupt our organization, other markets? How is competition going to respond? And so I find it useful to think about disruption as a question, who might be disrupted, as opposed to a definition of a thing. And I have found that to be useful, although that particular rant that I give in my classroom is not always welcome by people who want to label everything as disruptive. And so I'm very, very sympathetic to this idea that I always tell people, please read what Clay actually meant. And we should start from there, not the all-encompassing word that has become so fashionable.
The point I would make is if it's something new that causes an incumbent, an organization already there to not see it or see it and dismiss it or see it and not be able to respond to it because, again, it might break the capability or business model of that incumbent organization, I think it is disruptive, maybe more by the Merriam-Webster definition. I think it really comes down to how much does it stress the existing organization in the market to handle it, and can they respond? And if they can't, for whatever reason, if they really struggle, I think it's sort of dictionary definition disruptive, and then that has all kinds of implications.